Hello. Welcome to Meditation Nerd. Sorry if that started. It was still showing as loading, so I was just waiting. Okay, so you may hear some snorting sounds. I have a stuffy kitty with me. She has, I'm not sure if it's a cold or what, but she sounds a little bit stuffy, so she's kind of snorting while she's sleeping. And my sinuses are also a little bit clogged, so you may hear some whistling. Those are my sinuses contributing to this evening's discussion. So, have you ever been sitting in meditation and you either wanted to burst out sobbing or laughing? Or you did one or the other just out of nowhere. You just suddenly you just suddenly started laughing or you started crying. Maybe you did both at the same time. Yes, I've had that experience. And it turns out that this is actually um, part of the Eastern Orthodox Christianity all the way over to Sufism and everything in between, right? So this is actually a pretty advanced practice in the form of prayer and meditation. I consider them the same if they're bringing you to presence, full presence. Um, but these practices that they would engage in, if they were going deep with it, or it's everything's lining up and they're just in the groove, right? It can bring about uncontrollable weeping, penthos, or ecstatic laughter. So, in case you ever had this experience, I wanted to make sure that this was also in the obscure meditation facts because I feel like it's really important that people are made aware of this. Let me know if you can relate to this as well. When I first started meditating, I was under the impression that if you moved, you failed, or you broke some sort of unspoken covenant or rule or something. If you sneezed, oh, you got to start over. Your leg twitches. You got to shift because your butt's going numb, right? you're no, that's a hard fail. Sorry about that. Well, it turns out in older traditions, this isn't seen as a failure. Laughing and crying. I don't think moving is seen as a failure either. I haven't really been able to find anything on that though. Um, the point being with crying and laughing, this actually has been seen as the heart purifying itself or going through purification, or just simply a divine joyous breakthrough, right? It wasn't it wasn't something to be afraid of. You didn't fail. It was something that was just part of the practice or the prayer or whatever it was that you were engaging in, right? It was to be elevated and excited about, not something to be concerned or seeing yourself as failing. This one really resonated with me because, as I was saying, when I first started, I would have moments where I did start crying. That was easier to allow while also keeping some of it stuck in my throat, if that makes any sense to anyone. If anybody can relate to that. The laughter I felt more ashamed of because I felt like you weren't supposed to laugh during meditation. It's supposed to be like this quiet space, right? Everyone's you know, so peaceful and you can't, you're not supposed to break that silence. That's just don't do it, right? And so when I would sit in my own practice, I was reaching a stage more and more where I was just laughing throughout. It was a pretty joyous experience. Um, so that was when I really started to question, okay, so what part of this works as far as meditation goes? And why do I keep fighting something that feels like it's elevating, right? Whether it's the tears or it's the laughter. Why do I keep trying to stuff that for silence? I don't think that silence is going to be offended by either, right? Including my nose doing its own whistle. I don't think silence is going to have an issue with that. So if you ever cried or laughed uncontrollably on the cushion or in prayer for that matter, you're in good company and you are doing exactly what you should be doing. You're connecting to that part of yourself that wants to elevate, that wants to have that spark, that breakthrough, whatever is needed via the tears or the laughter or even the movement. Because we've spoken about where breakthroughs have come through, where something as mundane as scratching your nose, right? That has allowed breakthroughs. It's, the profound awareness of being in meditation with the just regular mundane move of scratching your nose, right? So there is no um, right or wrong here. These are good. Not saying throw everything to the wind. Stay, you need to stay within what's best for you. I just wanted to point these out that these are strong emotional releases, or can be, and they were seen as milestones, not mistakes, not failures. This was just part of the meditative practice. So I just want to kind of end with, we won't be doing a practice. For anyone, what I would like for you guys to give it a try on your own and let me know how it works out is, if you have had this experience, whether it was laughing, it was crying, it was both, right? I want you to just spend some time reflecting on those experiences and notice how it felt. If maybe you had a similar experience where you felt the joy of the laughter and you also felt ashamed, like I did, where I'm like, oh my God, I'm breaking the silence, or oh my God, I'm laughing. Is that like some sort of slap to the mantra? You know what I mean? Like, I felt very concerned. So, well, it turns out no. It's not negative. So, and then for anyone who hasn't had one of these experiences, I want you to just sit with yourself and bring up some, I want you to meditate rather on experiences where you've had a really good cry, a really good laugh, right? The belly laugh, your face hurts and you feel just amazing afterwards. The cry where you just sobbed, it's just full on ugly crying, right? And you just felt amazing after, aside from perhaps a headache and the puffy eyes. Just meditate with that experience and just notice how it felt, right? How you kind of went through it, whether it was crying or laughing, just how it all kind of unraveled within you. And then just let me know how that went. But I did want it to be more of like a personal exploration. So the current iteration is what I will leave you with. This is the somatic experiencing and emotional release work. So the modalities such as bioenergetics, bioenergetics, if I can get my teeth around it, and then certain forms of trauma therapy will intentionally facilitate pent up emotions through shaking, crying, shouting, um, because some of these modalities, some of these teachers, or therapists, depending on where they're at in their journey, whether they're, helping patients or they're teaching, they understand the connection between the need of release, right? The emotions need to be released somewhere. They need to be allowed to move out instead of carried forward, because they understand that emotional energy just stays and it can make things so much worse, right? You can just, your hips just will not move anymore because you've crammed so much emotion in there, or maybe your spine's less flexible, etc., etc. So it's good that they're catching up, that modern modalities are starting to catch up to this, that, hey, actually, this is good for you to move this around. Um, so I wanted to share this. Like I said, this one hit me so hard when I was looking through the remaining obscure facts I have that I wanted to share, and was like, yeah, when I first started, I was terrified of doing it wrong. I was terrified of all the joy that would flow up and bust out in the form of laughter. Um, and then, like I say, I would just like trap all of it in my throat. So that's something I'm still working through. Um, anyway, I hope you found this helpful, and I hope that it just offers a support for anybody that needed it, even if you didn't need it, in case you should need it in the future. This way, it's perfectly okay. It's also okay if you're someone that simply wants to sit in silence. Just do so, in alignment with yourself, not because you're telling yourself it's wrong to cry or laugh or move or scratch your nose or whatever you need to do to ensure that you're honoring your body, your emotions, your mental perspective, and the meditative practice itself, right? All of these things should be aligned for you. It shouldn't be some sort of like competition of, well, I can only honor silence today. That's not really a meditative practice, in my humble opinion. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for me, and I will, of course, see you next time.